Seven Deadly Sins and Four Nights the Apocalypse fans, we are eating good today. The very first episode of Four Nights the Apocalypse's anime finally came out in Japan, and it looked wonderful. It is gorgeous. I have to say, it broke the curse from Seven Deadly Sins. And ever since I saw the opening in the morning, I waited, I watched the episode, and it was everything I wanted and more. In all honesty, I cannot stress how happy I am with this adaptation based on episode 1. Obviously, things could change as it progresses, but I'm just happy with it. And so far, every Seven Deadly Sins and Four Nights fan that has read the manga is happy with this first episode. Something that I just want to say real quick is that there was no official translation or sub for the anime, so basically just going off of the raw, and fan translation will probably be out at some point by the time this video comes out. So I'm just going off of what I know from the manga, and I'm just going to go with the events that happened in the episode based on my memory and the additions that the anime actually did to the source material, which is very much appreciated, and it really hammers home what happens by the end of this episode. But before we get into this actual little deep dive, don't forget to like and subscribe, hit the notification bell for updates on future videos. It really helps and shows you guys enjoy the content I make here on the channel. I cover Four Nights' manga weekly, and now I plan to try and do the same with the anime, if at all possible. I'm going to try and keep a decent schedule for these, because I just want to share my thoughts on this series getting an adaptation that actually looks good. And I'll probably do some more Four Nights content here and there, so subscribing to the channel will really help my motivation and help increase the community that we make for this series. Now that out of the way, let's get right into the video. So I'm going to try and do this a bit differently than my chapter reviews. I'm not going to go by moment, just going to go general summary and moments that stuck out to me for each episode. If I need to go beat by beat, I will, but it'll just be more standard review, as I have seen these moments in the manga and I've read the first chapter a couple of times, so moments that will stick out, I'll stick with them a bit longer, but I will just do a general overview of the episode and talk about what I liked about it and how things ended, and my personal opinions on how it compares to the manga and what they added. So first off, I just want to say this: the opening, beautiful. Really hammers home with not just the music, but also the visuals and the animation for the most part, the feeling of a long adventure. And that's what, at the very bare minimum, both the first half of the Four Nights anime is going to showcase and focus on in adventure. Now, the manga is still an adventure, but there's more of a clear focus on and goal on what everyone is going to end up doing. The first half of this first season and a decent portion of the second half of season 1 is most likely just going to focus on this grand adventure with Percival and the friends that he'll meet along the way. And the opening really encapsulates that, and there's even some little bits of foreshadowings and hints to what's going to occur in the story, though most of it is just like Percival and the gang just having fun in an adventure. And it just warms my heart to see. I can't wait to see all these other characters as the anime continues. Now, the anime does start off with Percival and his grandfather Vargas catching a giant stone bird, and I like how there is decent movement and fluidity for the actions of Percival just bouncing around, running, grabbing the bird, and Vargas just going off to find Percival. Even something as simple as Percival just eating the cooked meat of the bird is honestly nice and quick and relatively crisp. Nothing's choppy. Something is relatively moving, even if it's just the lip flaps. The art direction and just the colors just all fit perfectly, with a nice bit of almost like a storybook aesthetic for the most part with how things are going. And even the landscape shots are just gorgeous, that I have to say. It adds on to the manga phenomenally. I'm really glad that they expanded a little bit upon and added some fun movement was Percival and Vargas's little match, which is, I forgot the name of it, but it is a form of Celtic wrestling, and how Percival moves around and maneuvers to try and get a good hit on Vargas and try and get him to move. It's fun at some of the extra movements, because it's like a page and a half or a few panels in the manga, and adding that in just made it feel a lot more real and just made it more entertaining. Something that this episode does very well, that the first chapter did as well, is show us the bond of Percival and Vargas. How these two care about each other and how they've literally spent their entire lives on this place, God's Finger, which is high above the clouds, isolated from the rest of the world. And a key thing is Vargas trying to get Percival to go out into the world and have an adventure, not be stuck on this one isolated area for the rest of his life. But Percival is content with staying there just to be with his grandfather, which is really sweet, but Vargas does want Percival to do more with his life than just stay with him because they're family. Even Percival wants to go out and have an adventure with all these different stories that Vargas tells him. And funny thing is, these quick little stories or things that Vargas says are in the world actually foreshadows a couple of things that happened later on. One in this episode, the others were some actually like some future arcs, and some that haven't occurred yet. Kind of crazy, but shows that some of these stuff was really planned relatively well in advance. The first half of the episode really showcases Percival and Vargas just having their daily life, having fun, and just living a nice peaceful existence until Ironside shows up, the knight in red. And I like this interaction between him and Percival because it's relatively nonchalant. Ironside treating Percival like a kid, but then he goes on to actually say that Vargas kept Percival here without telling him anything, and that it's pretty cruel of him, which shocks Percival. A bit of piece of foreboding as Ironside goes off to meet Vargas. And I like Percival just getting this eerie feeling that something's not right, until he goes up to check on his grandfather. And the scene with Vargas versus Ironside, it was quick, but it was what I imagined it to be. I wish it was just a few seconds longer, but the action scene was really great. I like how Vargas, as he was cooking, is confronted with Ironside from behind, and just the slow and quick oh shit moment that Vargas got by hearing Ironside's voice. The sheer amount of terror and anxiety just from those eyes in that one instance, as he quickly blocks one of those cross attacks that Ironside launched at him with his magic attack. It flung him around very clear and crisp, just really well animated, just going right through his house. He gets up and lunges forward to Ironside. Quick blade movements, really actual animation to showcase this action scene. I wish it was, again, I wish it was a little longer, but it was done very well, and I just cannot wait to see more of these action scenes. The swordplay was really well done, and it was very quick and fluid. And I just like that in this instance, Ironside gets, using his magic attack, putting a cross straight through Vargas, and the commendability I have for not censoring this, because this was a big concern for this adaptation, that there was going to be censoring in the series, and thankfully there was not. We literally get to see the hole in Vargas from that cross attack as the blood drips, as it's just brutal, man. In the manga, this was brutal. The anime did capture this relatively perfectly, with the tone and everything. Percival coming in, trying to help Vargas to no avail, and Vargas trying to hold Ironside back with whatever strength he has left so Percival can run away. But Ironside, not really caring, just riddles Vargas through with a bunch of piercing attacks in an instance with his magic. Vargas on the ground, bleeding out, with literal cross wounds deep through all of his limbs and his body, bleeding out. And as Ironside also does the same thing to Percival, as Percival falls onto the ground, brutally injured. Vargas learns that after all this time why Ironside went out to look for them, and apparently it was because of the vision of the Four Nets, the Apocalypse. And yeah, anyone that could potentially be a threat has to die, and that's why he attacked Vargas and Percival. And so Ironside ends up leaving Percival and Vargas by themselves. Percival, despite having such a massive and glaring wound, gets up and goes towards Vargas in his final moments. As the two of them apologize for not being able to protect each other, Vargas hugs Percival and saying that there's no need to cry, and he tells Percival that the person he has to protect right now is himself, and that he has to find someone who he can trust and walk alongside. In this moment, very emotional, and I am so happy that this was done. The voice acting, especially from Vargas, really hits home. And as he falls down to the ground, coughing blood, Vargas tells Percival that Ironside is his father. And Vargas does say and apologize that he told Percival that his father died when he was young, but Percival can't believe that that's his dad, that he would kill his grandfather. But Vargas doesn't have enough time to fully explain, and Percival, crying, just doesn't know what to do. Vargas tells Percival to go on a journey, but he has to go by himself. Percival doesn't want to go, but Vargas just grabs his head and tells him it's okay, saying that Percival is his hope as he falls down and passes away as the snowfall comes down onto God's finger. And this was a very emotional moment. Now, something that the anime did, which I am very thankful and happy for, is they extended things after Vargas's death. We have a few minutes of Percival just going about his daily life the day after, burying his grandfather, and then him trying to live his life as it normally is, catching fish, cleaning stuff, getting fresh water, cooking, eating, trying to rebuild the house. He even comes across a chest that his grandfather left for him as a gift, with his iconic look, his clothing that we see for the rest of season 1 that he ends up having, with a note telling him for when you go out on the road. As a little flashback happens, now obviously this is the manga, but I can only assume that this is probably Vargas's birthday gift to Percival, as that day was Percival's birthday when he finally turns 16. And that moment really hits it home, as it shows just how much Vargas was not only preparing for Percival, but how much he just wanted Percival to have a nice and happy life. He had this prepared for him in advance. It's just really heartwarming and tragic, with Percival just continuing to cry over the loss of the only person he ever knew and loved, his only family. As we then get more scenes of Percival by his grandfather's grave, as he gets up with his new outfit, puts on his grandfather's helmet and cloak, as he gets ready to head off on his adventure. And something the anime does do is that normally this would be the end of chapter 1, but it dives into the first couple of pages from chapter 2, showcasing Percival's descent downward from God's finger, and finally landing on the surface, where he comes in contact or sees the red fox that we will later learn their name to be Sin. And that's where the episode ends. Ending theme is kind of fun and energetic, kind of adorable in a sense, kind of weird, but I don't mind it. I like it. The song's fine. Again, just shows the main group having fun. But yeah, that episode was great. Art direction, animation, music, and voice acting, top tier, 10 out of 10. Probably one of the best first episodes for a shonen anime in a long time. Maybe even in the new gen. I might be biased, but this was really good. I enjoyed it. Seven Deadly Sins and Four Knights fans enjoyed it, and I am just happy to see this series come into its own. They adapted properly. Now I want to address two things. One thing is kind of a nitpick, and it's Percival's voice actor. Me, and I think every Four Knights fan, based off of Percival's bubbly, joyous, and energetic personality, would figure he'd have more of a high-pitched voice. And this one's a lot more deeper, as he sounds more like a teenager, which I'm okay with. The voice actor does a good job, and in the emotional moments, it does help, and he kind of captures obviously Percival's whole joyous, bubbly personality, so I'm okay with it. It's more the fact that the image of Percival in my head and what he sounded like conflicted with the anime, and that's kind of a nitpick, but I'm sure it will grow on me. Next up, I'd have to say there is going to be use of CGI. This was noted before the anime released, and in the opening there is an image of Ironside in full CG and a CG dragon. You only see it briefly, but it is CG. Now, did kind of expect something like that, because the knights in Four Knights are a lot more detailed, so outside of a couple of action scenes there is going to have to be some CG used for certain instances, so it makes sense. So just be aware, that's going to be how it is from certain points. And in this episode we saw Ironside in CG for only a few seconds, and when he was in motion it didn't bother me, and I'm pretty sure that in his clash with Vargas there was no CG whatsoever, so it was clear 2D animation. And I look forward to when Four Knights comes back next week. Those are my thoughts on Four Knights of the Apocalypse episode 1. It was gorgeous, probably one of the best first episodes for a shonen anime in a while. Like I said, practically perfect. Animation was great, on point. Art direction was amazing. Voice acting, I really loved Vargas in particular. His voice acting was phenomenal, and the music, great. I love the opening, very energetic. But what do you guys think? Leave your thoughts and opinions in the comment section down below. Did you enjoy the episode? Was there some stuff that you didn't like? Did you like the extra additions like I did? And what are you excited for to see in the future of the Four Knights anime? And again, if you like what you see here, don't forget to like and subscribe and hit the notification bell for updates on future videos. It really helps, and it shows you guys enjoy the content I make here on the channel. I'll be sure to cover this anime weekly alongside the chapter reviews for the manga, so look forward to that. And with all that said and done, I hope you all have an awesome day.